For over a century, he was a monster, content in his eternal midnight. And then, in a single, unremarkable moment in a high school cafeteria, he became a protector. This is the story of what happens when the predator falls in love with the prey, not a story told from the outside looking in, but from deep inside the mind of the monster himself. A mind that for 100 years had perfected a life of control and denial, only to have it all shattered by the one thing he could never have predicted. A love that was both his salvation and his damnation. Have you ever felt a pull towards someone so strong, so irrational, that it frightened you? Not a fear of them, but a fear of yourself, of what you might become in their presence. For most of us, this is a fleeting metaphor, a poetic turn of phrase. For Edward Cullen, it was a literal, moment-to-moment battle for the soul he wasn't even sure he still possessed. This is the core conflict at the heart of Stephenie Meyer's long-awaited novel, Midnight Sun. This book is not a simple retelling of a story you think you know. It is a profound and often agonizing deep dive into a consciousness at war with itself. The central problem is not merely that a vampire loves a human girl. The problem is that a being who has built his entire existence on a foundation of control, discipline, and the denial of his most fundamental nature is suddenly faced with a force that obliterates that foundation entirely. The book asks a terrifying question: what is left of you when the one thing you use to define yourself is taken away? What happens when your virtue becomes your vice, and your only hope for happiness is also the greatest threat you have ever posed to another living soul? Midnight Sun promises to take us on that journey. It promises to unlock the mystery of Edward Cullen, to finally give voice to the silence, the brooding, the often erratic and frightening behavior that defined him in the original Twilight saga. Meyer's grand promise is this: you will step inside the mind of a 109-year-old predator. Feel the weight of his century of loneliness, the constant, maddening symphony of other people's thoughts in his head, and the soul-rending agony of falling in love for the first and only time with the one person whose blood sings to him, whose scent is a brand of heroin designed for him alone. This is not just a romance. It is a story of existential horror, of profound self-loathing, and the desperate, impossible fight to be better than what you are. It is the anatomy of a love so powerful, it threatens to burn the world to the ground, starting with the two people caught in its center. Our story, or rather Edward's story, begins not with a bang, but with the crushing, soul-deadening monotony of purgatory. For Edward Cullen, purgatory has a name: high school. For a being of immense power, speed, and a mind that hears the cacophony of every human thought within a 3-mile radius, the tediousness of repeating his junior year for the umpteenth time is a unique form of torture. He sits in the Forks High School cafeteria, a place he loathes, surrounded by the frivolous, trivial thoughts of mortals. The drama of the day is the arrival of a new student, and the excitement is, to him, tiresomely predictable. He has heard it all before. He is a predator masquerading as a boy, and the world is a slow, dull, predictable stage. His only solace and his greatest responsibility is his family. His 2 brothers and 2 sisters, as he thinks of them. Rosalie, trapped in a stagnant pool of her own perfection, admiring her reflection in the back of someone's glasses. Emmett, fuming over a lost wrestling match with Jasper, his thoughts as clear and open as a lake with no shadows. And Jasper is suffering. 2 weeks without a hunt is beginning to fray his newer, more fragile control. Edward feels the echoes of his brother's thirst, a dry ache in his own throat. This is the constant underlying tension of their existence. The need for blood and the choice to deny it. It is into this carefully constructed, precariously balanced world of denial and discipline that the first anomaly appears, not a scent but a silence. During the lunch hour, the new girl, Isabella Swan, becomes the topic of conversation. Edward turns his mental focus to her table, expecting to hear her thoughts on the strange, chalky-skinned Cullen family. But where her thoughts should be, there is nothing. A void. A perfect, unnerving silence in the one place in the world. He could never find it. For a mind that has never known a moment of quiet, this is not a relief. It is a confounding, irritating mystery. It is a challenge. For the first time in decades, something is new. This intellectual curiosity, this puzzle, is the first thread that connects him to her. But it is the second event that changes everything. It happens later that day in biology class, the one place he cannot escape her proximity. As Bella Swan walks downwind from him, her scent hits him not like a fragrance, but like a battering ram, like an exploding grenade. In that single, cataclysmic instant, the century of control, the discipline, the identity he has so carefully cultivated, is annihilated. He is no longer Edward, the thoughtful, civilized vampire. He is only a predator, and she is his prey. There is nothing else in the world but that truth. Her blood is the sweetest he has smelled in more than 80 years, a personal brand of heroin he never knew existed. His throat burns with a fire he has never known, and his mind, the mind that was just moments ago bored with the trivialities of mortals, is now a vortex of violence. He doesn't just want her blood. He wants to drain every single person in the room to ensure there are no witnesses. He maps it out in his head with terrifying clarity, the 18 other students, the teacher. He can snap their necks, 4 or 5 a second. It would take at most 5 seconds. A small price for the eternity of bliss her blood promises. What stops him is not his own strength. It is an image. As Bella looks at him, her eyes wide with a fear she doesn't understand, he sees his own face reflected there. And what he sees is the face of a monster. The very monster he has spent his life trying to deny, the creature he loathes. In that same instant, another face appears in his mind, the face of Carlisle, his creator, his father. A face of compassion and unwavering belief that Edward is better than his nature. The shame of disappointing that belief is almost as painful as the fire in his throat. He realizes that if he gives in now, he will not just be killing this innocent girl and 20 others. He will be destroying the one good part of himself, the part that reflects Carlisle's love. He will be proving his father wrong. This is the battle that rages within him for the entire hour, the monster versus the sun. He endures by holding his breath, by hating the girl for the weakness she has exposed in him, by plotting 100 different ways to lead her into the woods and kill her away from prying eyes. It is a state of pure, unadulterated torment. When the bell rings, it saves not one life, but 21. He flees, a coward from his own nature, and from the girl who is its catalyst. This cataclysmic first encounter sends Edward into a self-imposed exile. He runs to Denali, Alaska, to the only other coven of vegetarian vampires they know. Here, he hopes the distance will quell the fire, that he can regain the control he once took for granted. He finds no peace. The face of the human girl, her wide, chocolate brown eyes, haunts him, obstructing his view of the stars, of everything. He is confronted by the beautiful vampire Tanya, who for decades has hoped he would return her affections. But her allure is nothing to him now. He is obsessed with a mystery he left behind in Forks. He is tormented by a thirst that only one person can quench, and by a memory of the monster he almost became. Tanya sees the truth of him, not as a monster, but as a man haunted, and tells him, "You'll face it head on. You're the type." Her words, her belief in a strength he no longer feels, give him just enough courage to return. He will face the temptation. He will not be a coward. His return to Forks is not a return to normalcy, but an escalation of his obsession. He can no longer allow himself to look at Bella, to be near her, so he becomes a different kind of monster, a stalker. He spends his days listening, sifting through the minds of those around her: Mike Newton, Jessica Stanley, Angela Weber, piecing together the details of her life. He learns her, not through her own thoughts, which remain a frustrating blank, but through her actions, her words, her effect on others. He discovers she is clumsy, selfless, and braver than she has any right to be. She is good, through and through, and his fascination deepens, becoming something more than just a thirst for her blood, or a curiosity about her silent mind. It is a pull toward her very soul. This tense, distant observation is shattered by the second near disaster. In the school parking lot, a van skids on a patch of ice, careening directly toward Bella. Without a moment for thought, without a shred of his former control, Edward moves. He crosses the distance between them so fast that no human eye could follow. A blur of motion. He throws himself between the van and the girl, his only instinct to protect her. The words shout in his head as if they belong to someone else, not her. In this moment, he is no longer a predator contemplating her death. He is her shield. He stops the van with his bare hands, leaving a dent in its side and another in the car behind him, his body an unyielding wall. He has saved her life, but he has also exposed the impossible truth of what he is. The aftermath of the rescue is a new kind of battle. Bella is not merely frightened, she is suspicious. She saw him. She knows he was not standing next to her. She knows what he did was impossible. He is forced to lie, to deny, to try and convince her that she is mistaken, that she hit her head. But she is stubborn, her belief in her own sense is unshakable. For the first time, Edward is faced with a human who sees through the charade, who will not accept the easy explanation. His greatest fear is that she will expose his family, force them to flee. But his deeper, more personal agony is that he has terrified her. His lie is a desperate attempt to protect her from the horror of the truth. But Bella will not let it go. "You owe me an explanation," she insists, and her persistence is a new, exquisite form of torture. He is caught between the need to protect her from the truth and her unwavering demand for it. He leaves her with a cold, harsh denial, hoping to drive her away for her own safety, but knowing even as he does it, that this strange, impossible girl will not be so easily deterred. The mystery of her is no longer just about her silent mind. It is about her courage, her perception, and the terrifying, magnetic pull she has on every part of his being. The slow, torturous unraveling of Edward's secrets becomes the central drama of their lives. He abandons his avoidance, deciding that he is not strong enough to stay away from her. The pain of her absence is greater than the pain of her presence. He gives in, choosing to sit with her, talk with her, to exist in the intoxicating, dangerous orbit of her life. These conversations are a minefield. Every question she asks pushes him closer to a truth he is terrified to reveal. He learns more about her self-effacing love for her chaotic mother, her quiet kindness, her unexpected humor, her profound goodness. And with every detail, his own feelings deepen, becoming a tangled mess of adoration, desire, and a soul-deep terror for her safety. He, in turn, reveals pieces of himself, not in words, but in actions. His inhuman speed and strength, the way his eyes change color from gold to black. She notices everything. She theorizes, first with silly ideas of radioactive spiders and comic book heroes, and then, after a trip to the nearby Quileute Reservation, she stumbles upon the cold, hard truth. A tribal legend, a story meant to be a warning, becomes for her a revelation. Vampire. The confrontation in the meadow is the heart of the entire story. It is the moment Edward has dreaded, the trial by fire he knows he must face. He has promised to show her what he is, and he leads her to a secluded, sunlit meadow. He steps into the light, and his skin does not burn, but sparkles, refracting the sunlight into a million glittering rainbows. It is the most flagrant symptom of his disease, the undeniable proof of his inhumanity. He expects terror, revulsion. He steels himself for her to flee, to scream. But Bella's reaction, as always, is the opposite of what is logical. She does not run from him. She runs to him, her face filled not with fear, but with a desperate concern that the light is hurting him. "I've never seen anything more beautiful," she breathes. And in that moment, Edward's world is turned upside down. The thing he loathed most about himself, the mark of the monster, is, to her, a thing of beauty. This acceptance is not a resolution, it is a new and more dangerous complication. Her lack of fear, her unwavering trust, is the greatest threat of all. It invites him closer. He is overwhelmed, not by bloodlust, but by a tidal wave of human emotion he has not felt in a century. He touches her, and the connection is electric, and then he loses control. Not the control over his thirst, but the control over his heart. He kisses her, and it is a cataclysm. A combustion of light and sensation that is so powerful it nearly breaks him. For a terrifying instant, the baser instincts return, the venom, the hunger. He throws himself away from her, horrified by his own reaction, by how close he came to losing the battle he thought he had won. He has failed the test. He has proven that he is, and always will be, a danger to her. This moment of bliss becomes a moment of profound despair. He has found the greatest joy of his life, only to realize that he must, for her sake, give it up. This fragile, impossible peace is shattered by the arrival of a new, more immediate threat. During a game of vampire baseball, a rare moment of joyous, unrestrained freedom for the Cullens, they are interrupted by three nomadic vampires, Laurent, Victoria, and James. What begins as a tense but cautious encounter explodes into a deadly confrontation when a chance gust of wind carries Bella's scent to the strangers. Laurent and Victoria are merely confused, but James, the third vampire, is not a simple hunter, he is a tracker. For him, the hunt is the entire point of his existence. He is a predator who delights in the challenge, and in Edward, he sees the ultimate game, a powerful coven protecting a single, fragile, and irresistibly fragrant human. The game is on. The idyllic afternoon transforms into a desperate race. The family must split up, creating false trails to lead James away from Forks, away from Bella's father, Charlie. Edward, with Emmett and Alice, becomes the decoy, while Jasper and Rosalie take Bella south, toward the perceived safety of her mother's home in Phoenix. The plan is a desperate gamble, a chaotic series of feints and deceptions. Edward is torn apart, separated from the one person he cannot bear to be without, his mind a maelstrom of panic and guilt. He knows James is not just a hunter, he is a sadist. He will not just kill Bella, he will enjoy it. He will make her suffer. The final chapters are a frantic, heart-pounding race against time, a desperate flight that leads not to safety, but to a final, terrifying confrontation in a mirrored dance studio. It is here that Edward's worst fears are realized, and he is forced to confront the true cost of his love and the terrible, inevitable violence of his world. What makes Midnight Sun a singular reading experience is its radical shift in perspective. It is not just Twilight from another point of view. It is a completely different book, a different genre. While the original was a romance tinged with mystery and danger, Midnight Sun is a psychological horror story, a deep and often disturbing character study of a being at war with his own soul. Meyer doesn't just show us Edward's love, she shows us his self-loathing, the crushing weight of a century of guilt, and the constant, maddening noise of his telepathy. It's a book that finds its power in the internal, in the agonizing minutiae of self-control. The unique feeling it offers is one of profound, almost suffocating empathy for the monster. You feel his thirst, his pain, his impossible desire, in a way that is visceral and unsettling. This book is for anyone who read Twilight and was left with questions. It's for the reader who craves depth, who wants to understand the why behind the what. It is for those who are fascinated by stories of internal conflict, of the battle between our better angels and our inner demons. If you enjoy deep character dives, philosophical wrestling with morality, and stories where the greatest battle is the one fought within the self, this book will be a revelation. However, this book is not for someone looking for a light or easy romance. It is relentlessly angsty, steeped in Edward's despair and self-hatred. If you prefer a fast-paced, plot-driven story without the weight of a heavy internal monologue, you may find the pacing, at times, to be a struggle. It is a book that demands patience, a willingness to sit with a character in his darkest moments. The single most valuable takeaway you will be left with is a new, more complex understanding of love itself, not just as a source of joy, but as a crucible, a force that can burn you down to your foundations and force you to choose, moment by moment, who you are going to be. When you close the final page of Midnight Sun, you will never see the original story in the same way again. The silent, brooding boy is given a voice, and that voice is filled with a century of pain, a universe of love, and a terror that is all too real. You will understand that for him, every smile was a victory, every gentle touch a monumental act of will, and every moment of peace a hard-won battle against the monster within. This summary has only opened the door to his mind. Reading the book is to step inside and live the battle alongside him. It is an experience that is as unforgettable as it is unsettling. To truly feel the fire and the light of his journey, you have to let his words, his pain, and his hope wash over you. The link to purchase Midnight Sun is in the description below. This isn't just a book, it's an experience you won't want to miss. If you found this summary insightful, please like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who's ready for their next life-changing read.